meeting is being recorded, and we're going to put it on our district website, so if there, YouTube page, so if there are any things that you want to go back and look at, review, if you want to sort of get a point that we're emphasizing, just for everyone's reference. Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Brett Provenzano. I'm the superintendent of Fairport Central School District. We're here to talk about lighting and sound mitigation at our track, multi-purpose field, and new and stadium. It impacts the neighbors. We know that this is a community interest, and we want to make sure that we're communicating our path, provide a little context, and talk about how we plan to work with the neighbors and support sound and light management with these facilities. And again, my name is Brett Provenzano. I'm superintendent, and we'll start to my right, and then we'll circle back.
I am Jeremy Nardone. I am the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations.
I'm Aaron Smith. I'm the Director of Facilities for Fairport Schools.
Brian Belair, Campus Construction Management Group.
Fritz Killian, Director of Health, Phys Ed, Athletics here at Fairport.
Craig McGowan, Project Manager with Campus Construction.
I'm Chris Webster, Senior Electrical Engineer with ME Engineering.
Pat Groh, I'll be the new principal as of July 1st here at FHS.
And I'm Bob Clark. I'm currently the principal of Fairport High School and eventually will be the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources.
So we have all sorts of people here that can provide some insights. If there's questions that you have we don't have the answer to, I know that's already happened thanks to Aaron doing some work with some of our neighbors of doing a tour and talking with those who are impacted, particularly by the new track, if there's interest in learning and understanding on how we're moving forward. We're going to give you a little context, talk about an updated lighting plan, talk about sound and lighting guidelines that we've created and talked based upon feedback that we learned from neighbors in the fall. It was very helpful, and talk about the track and field and what's next in the timeline and what to expect. So hopefully for the next hour or so, we'll be able to engage in conversation. There is a sign-in sheet. That sign-in sheet is important to us because we really want to do a better job communicating. There's a parent square notification. That's how we communicate with our families, that now we're able to communicate with neighbors who don't have children in the district. So if you haven't done so, please, Lindsay Reddig, who's our communication specialist, will be walking around to make sure that we get your email so you could sign up and have communication well in advance. So we're going to start out by talking about the Fairport High School Athletic Complex. Why now? Why are we having this conversation? What has evolved over the past several months that has put us in a position to, as we call, level up and provide more opportunities for our kids and access for our kids?
Absolutely. So it all comes down to money. When you factor in a capital project, the voters give us authorization to spend a certain amount of money. And if you remember, we had two authorizations, one for a $36 million addition to the high school, plus some site work at the high school, in addition to some work at Martha Brown Middle School. And then we had a separate proposition for the track, which was $9.475 million. So we have to stay within those parameters. Whenever you start doing a construction project, you leave money aside for contingency, which is money that you hopefully don't have to spend, but you don't know. When we tear down a wall, we don't know what's behind the wall. We can do some testing, but we don't really know until we get into it. Similar at your house. Have you ever done a bathroom remodel or a kitchen remodel? You take something away, and now you find something else, and you got to spend a little bit more money. So you put some of that contingency money aside. Back when we talked about the multi-purpose field, we didn't really know how much of that contingency money we were going to use because we were doing all the groundwork. You could find unsuitable soils. You can find an array of different things that makes you tap into that contingency dollars. Now we are almost out of the ground. We're pretty much built. The track is going to be done here in November. The STEAM edition is almost completed. That'll be done by August. So we kind of know where we're going to be with our contingency dollars. So some of that money freed up that we have able to spend now on other items. But again, we have to relay it to what those propositions were for. And the propositions, both of them, stated lighting, field lighting, enhancements, site work at the high school. So we can kind of fit it into either proposition. This is probably going to go under the track proposition, but it'll fit either or proposition. So along with that, we looked at a couple different things. We looked at what our community needs are. We looked at what our student needs are. With the time change happening and our high school now getting out at 3:25, that's going to delay about an hour to an hour and a half, and I'm sure our athletic director is going to be talking about that, but of practices. So those practices are going to go a little bit later, so we want to make sure that our students have the lighting that they need to make sure that they can have those practices. We also want to make sure that the community has what they need. So we want to host large sectional events. We want to host these fun events. Like I remember some schools host Special Olympics. It'd be cool to host some of those. You need the adequate lighting in order to do that, especially if it runs a little bit later into the evening. And another thing that we look at is maximizing state aid. When we do these projects, we want to do things that are aidable and that's going to drive aid back for the district. This is already factored in with our current aid draws, so we know what we're going to receive and this isn't going to hurt it in any way. In addition to that, when we went out for the multi-purpose field lighting, we thought that that lighting was going to come in at $2 million, as you can see on this presentation. We are getting this lighting through Musco through a purchasing cooperative, which follows the laws with state municipal law, general municipal law, and it actually came in at $1.3 million. So we looked at, okay, what else can we do? And the track was one of those things that really, appealed to not only the district but the community, and that was $700,000. So it brought us right back in line with that $2 million original budget. So that is what you see there, and that is why we were able to do the track lighting at this time, because some funds freed up. So
it's important to recognize that throughout the project, the infrastructure for the track lighting was going to be installed, right? And then as Mr. Nardone just said, given the factors that costs came in differently, we were able to then take advantage of the bidding environment and add the lights right now versus later. The lights were always slotted to be in the track field because invitational track meets go well into the evening, as Mr. Killian can talk about, and I know that we have some coaches here that speak to how more and more games and meets are starting later and going into the evening, which affects their programming.
And yes, all the trenching was already paid for in the initial project, so that's coming at no additional cost. This is just really putting the light bases in and the poles. So when we look at the bidding phase, and again, we are using a national cooperative for this purchase, but there's also some other factors as to why now. And the one big thing is a consolidated shipping. You ever buy something and you pay for a shipping cost? Well, if you buy it again a month later, you're going to pay double the shipping costs. Same thing with lighting. The more times you touch it, the more it's going to cost. Inflation could go up, so if we try to buy these lights in 3 to 4 years, who knows what the price is going to be at that time. Right now is the right time because we have the funding available, and we're trying to consolidate it into one shipment of lights. So this is going to be lights for the multi-purpose field, lights for the track. It's going to be all-inclusive, all ordered at the same time to keep the project on track and get done in the amount of time that we need it done for. In addition, if we did not do it now, we are not anticipating doing another capital project at the high school for some time. We have maximum cost allowances, maximum dollar amounts that we can spend over a 5-year period, that if we don't take advantage of it now, we have to wait at least 3.5 years from this time before we can even do a project again and get aided on that. So we really want to take advantage of it now because who knows when the next project's going to happen at the high school. Those are conversations that we're having now, and we're getting into that with our construction team and our architect as well. Also, like we said, lower than anticipated costs on the original shipment of the multi-purpose field came in $700,000 lower. And we said, how much are the track lighting? And it came in right at about $680,000. So just shy of that $700,000 mark. And again, the track light infrastructure was already a part of it. So everything was already run. The conduit was run. We added some fiber for some cameras and some sound systems that we'll talk about a little later, but everything was already there, which Mr. Provenzano said, we planned on this happening. We just didn't know when it was going to happen because we had those funds tied up in the contingency money. Now that we were able to pull that money back, now is the time to do it. So bottom line, it's the right time, it's the right place to take care of this.
Hi, everybody. Being sensitive to neighbors and our overall school community, what we did throughout this year was we engaged with members of the community, some interscholastic athletic coaches and other administrators, and really put our groups that use our facilities into 2 buckets. We have our non-Fairport Central School District groups and our Fairport Central School District groups. An example of a non-Fairport Central School District group That'd be a travel soccer organization, whether it's with Fairport or without, or an organization such as Fairport Youth Football. Even though they're in our community, they're not a Fairport Central School District group. When they rent out our stadium or any of our fields, what we did was we really wanted to tighten up our own processes. And as you can see on the slide, those groups would be responsible for their own equipment, no music or announcements before 9 a.m. or after 7 p.m. And then music and announcements, once they are doing those, they really have to make sure that they are doing those at a reasonable amount of time, or excuse me, a reasonable volume that's acceptable.
So for example, I just want to, like, we have many groups, like right now, if you go out to the baseball field, there is a baseball team that is not a Fairport Central School District baseball team using our facilities. So that's what this is referring to. They have to use their own equipment. You can't use Fairport's equipment. I'm just reiterating because there's a lot of information being thrown at you. The 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. I know are important factors for some of our families out there. You shouldn't be hearing walk-up music after 7 o'clock on a Thursday night summer from a club baseball team, right? That's going to be our parameters that we're setting, right? And music must be at a reasonable volume. Now, reasonable is an interesting word to me. We've been grappling that. When we get our own system, we want to understand how we can calibrate it. So we didn't want to put a specific decibel or a specific volume until we understood exactly what we were dealing with, right? So, and I'm sure we're going to monitor and adjust that as we go along, because again, trying to serve the needs of our students, but also be good neighbors is important to us.
I don't know if this is an appropriate time, but as far as the volume is concerned, what is a rational reason why someone would yell into a speaker system?
So,
and continue to yell.
So there's two ways. Like if you're talking about the stadium where they play, the football games, where they play lacrosse games and soccer games, I guess when someone goal, really loud, or touchdown, first down, I understand what you're saying. That's getting caught up in the moment. That's probably playing to the crowd, part of the energy and excitement. However, and I'll ask some of the people that have been around this, we have invested in a new sound system at the stadium to try to address that and manage some of our speakers differently, which we can try to answer with that question.
Yeah, great question. So with the new sound system that we purchased for the stadium field, we're looking at a sound system for the track. And we were debating between two different systems, one that you would mount on the poles and one that would go on the scoreboard. When we were looking at the one that was mounted on the scoreboard, we heard that it was going to portray out a little louder and be a little bit annoying to our neighbors. Well, we said, we don't want that. What's the other one? They said the other one would go on the light poles. At the time, we didn't have light poles on the track. That wasn't part of it. This is probably going back 3 or 4 months ago. So what we did was we said, can we test it out on the stadium field? So over the spring, I think it happened in March, we actually put a brand new sound system that's actually mounted to the poles, and it should direct sound in a better way that's not to annoy the neighbors.
Okay, that's fine, but what about the human factor? The person actually communicating into that. How are you managing that human part of it?
I think
It
that
has nothing to do with the speaker.
maybe right now that's a rhetorical question to think about because, I've been in those games, right? And the crowd's going, there's lots of energy, lots of excitement, as you know. And the announcer says, it's another Fairport first down. And I get what you're saying, but that's something we can try to manage and mitigate. But if it's like a Saturday afternoon or a football game or a goal that's scored in overtime and it happens to be 9:30, it's hard to take away that excitement and that natural reaction, respectfully.
I had quite a bit of conversation with both you and Fritz on this topic, and I also am very aware of what you're saying, Kathy, that sometimes an announcer can really
Pump up the volume.
So excited that it's that house shattering window that over there, and there's 50 people in the stadium, and they're doing that kind of shouting versus a Saturday afternoon or Saturday night football game that maybe we can be a little bit more tolerance in the neighborhood of that excursion when it is a big game and there's 2,000 or 3,000 people standing.
So just, I think the system does matter in the context that the old system, those speakers are directed right at the back of those homes. The new system is set up entirely differently, trying to be directional, and the technology, to everybody's benefit is different now. It is directed at the field and at the actual stadium crowd and not just projecting out. And so most of those older systems, I'm with you too, like as a parent and a principal, I'm sitting in a track meet and I'm within the vicinity of that speaker. It's pretty loud. And they have it that way because they need it to get to the other side of the field so that they can hear like events called and things like that. This new speaker system is more strategically placing speakers and directing them at the areas on the field that you need them. And so we're hoping that the technology does mitigate part of that.
And Fritz did reach out to me on that test of the new system this spring, and it was indeed much quieter than what we heard.
And that kind of informed our decision.
I'm going to add another level of complexity. The old system was an analog system. It just had a volume dial, right? And the person who was using that, they turned it on and they set it at whatever volume they needed to do. New system is all digital. We can program maximum parameters, so we can eliminate the possibility of turning it up too loud. It won't stop them necessarily from yelling in the microphone, but we can top out the programming limits, whereas we couldn't do that before. In addition to how the speakers are pointed and how they're directed.
Before we go, we have a question here, and then I'll summarize what I just heard, and then we'll come down.
Comment respectfully, you're choosing to sit there when you're sitting next to the speaker at your kid's track meet. We've lived here for a long time. I hope you will do a better job consulting with the neighbors than you did when the stadium was originally put in. Because we were told that you would talk to us about noise level, and you didn't if we signed up. Now maybe squeaky wheels got more grease. And I can tell you, just to give you a level, for the people who are right adjacent, it's got to be really loud, because I live on Fallingbrook and I could tell you the score of the game and who scored every goal without moving from my deck or my kitchen when I'm inside. So
Thank you.
I appreciate that if you will give us more opportunity for input in the future.
So that's, again, we've exchanged some emails here. We're accessible. We don't want to be hiding behind, the door here. That's why we're having this conversation, so we can open up dialogue.
Much appreciated. I think maybe some folks who are no longer with the district were not as accessible and did not return calls.
I'm sorry.
Fritz gave me his phone number, and
Everyone has Fritz's number. It's 585. No.
I called him, and he answered, and he immediately got that sound adjusted.
So we'll go here.
I have driven during contests just to kind of get a gauge. So I will do that. If you reach out to me, we'll certainly do that.
Would the new sound system also be applicable to Saturday morning, early morning practices when kids turn music on?
So what we're going to do right now, we talked about non-Fairport Central School District organizations. So we established that. And again, this is going to be on our website. This will be on our YouTube. And this is the second phase of that for groups, Fairport Central School District groups using the facility. Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, thank you. So that second bucket is our own teams, our own programs. And again, this was in consultation with the meeting that we had with community members and some interscholastic coaches. As we move forward with the new facilities, our groups, our teams, they'll have to use our sound and our lighting equipment. We are not going to have any interscholastic athletic competitions scheduled to start after 8 p.m. Scheduled. So when I talk about scheduling, we may have a boys soccer game that starts at 5:30 and a varsity field hockey game that starts at 7:30 or 7:45. But we're not going to purposely schedule contests to start after 8 o'clock. They may go after 8. They will go after 8. But
That's actually more important. When does it end?
yeah, it's going to depend on the sport. Typically, right now, our contests will end at 9:30. I don't see contests lasting past 9:30. Sometimes we do have situations where we have a lightning delay and we have to evacuate the field and we get right back on it, or we have a heat delay where we have to wait until the temperature goes down.
And that's not much different than what we're doing now, okay? So what we're saying, just because we have lights, that doesn't mean we're gonna schedule games at 9:30 at night, or we're gonna have a track meet scheduled to start at 8:30. What Fritz is saying is, we're putting a parameter around it now, and teams, there will be some delays, that's natural, things happen, buses break down, buses arrive late. There was a traffic delay on I-490, and that's why our friend from Musco was, a little bit late to this meeting. But it was scheduled to start at 5, but because of the delay, it's gonna start at 5:45, and that's gonna bump the girls' lacrosse game to 8:15. So it's just like schedules, like, that's just being transparent, life happens.
I was referring to early Saturday morning practices.
Yep, let's go for that, let's keep going.
Yeah, so early morning, I'll continue down the list, if I may. We're not going to have any athletic practices scheduled to start after 9 p.m. And when our groups do play music or make announcements, the sound must be at a reasonable volume, and the district will make all reasonable efforts to regulate the use of district sound equipment. Our first practice slots for the fall and spring in our stadium are typically at 8 a.m., and I would not expect music or any announcements to be made before 8 a.m. on a Saturday.
That sounds wonderful, but I can tell you for 20 years that we've been there, not until an adult shows up that maybe that it is turned down, but we have been woken by enormously loud.
And we are hopeful that that new sound system fixed that. So we encourage, if we've had our entire spring season now, and remind me, Fritz, has that sound system been in use for our games?
We started that in late March. And,
Has it been better over the last 2 months?
I don't think that we have heard any.
What games?
We've had the boys lacrosse, the girls lacrosse, and the flag football this spring in the stadium.
Everything at the stadium since late March has been the new system.
Correct.
Which hopefully
Yeah.
alleviates that concern. If not, we
Monday
definitely
through
wanna know.
Saturday.
We have I'm sorry.
No, it's not better. We live on Valley Brook, on the next block over, not immediately behind the high school. And with our windows closed, we can, like someone else said, we can hear scores, we can hear names. We've lived here long enough that we remember what the previous sound system was like. And it was noticeable how much louder it was when that now old sound system was installed. This spring, I would say that we have definitely noticed that it is still too loud.
Okay, thank you.
It's usually the bass that you hear.
Whether you want it or not, you got it.
It's a loud bass. You guys know what bass is like. It's enough to wake you up. I mean, usually we're up before that time, but it's still, you hear it, and that's a long distance from the football field to our backyard, even though our backyard is the athletic field on Matthew. It's a boom.
What Linda is describing, you not only hear it, but at times you kind of feel it.
Yeah.
Which might be a better description for those of Linda Jason to try to appreciate.
So on the idea of the sound being added to the track, that that raised my concern because the track is all of 20 feet from our property line. It's right there. And if you've got sound going on lampposts and directional maybe, we're going to hear it. So we're already hearing it from the football field. How the heck are you going to control it on the track?
Great question. The one thing that we talked about was when we had the light poles installed, or when we thought about installing the light poles at the stadium, they're on, I believe, all 4 poles, if I'm not mistaken.
I saw them go up.
At the track,
Yeah.
it's only going to be on the east poles facing away from your property. So we're not putting that sound system on the west side directing towards your property. So hopefully all that sound gets bounced back because it's not facing your property. Those are conversations that we have had, and we'll be interested once they go in. We're going to want to be contacting you and knowing. So based on what the lady up there said, based on where your house is located, I want to know, is there something we can tweak on a directional? Because these
Right.
microphones, you can tweak them.
Are the poles on the inside of the track or on the outside of the track?
They're on the outside of the track.
One
Wow.
other thing that we would like, please stop and see the progress. Come into our backyards, not as a, oh, woe is me. It's going to be gorgeous. It's for the whole town. You just need to see what we've been dealing with and what it's like.
Dust has been terrible. Just waves of dust coming off the field. And last year, they had trucks that came every once in a while. This year, nothing.
Trucks would, they watered it down.
Yeah, I saw the watering truck. They had it out
They
yesterday.
haven't used it, and it
Yeah.
just blows everywhere in our yards and in our windows and on the siding.
So do you have now a contact of Aaron Smith, who is our Director of Facilities? If between now and as the project continues and ends, he's the right person to communicate with if there's dust and other factors, as you were talking to him earlier.
Because I'm kind of curious, how has the starting up of the diesel engines in the early morning, has that been?
Aaron,
7
it's
o'clock.
incredible.
Well,
Right
7, as I say, well, and they're told not a minute before 7, right?
But
I
it's,
mean,
maybe we're used to it. This is no exaggeration. The dishes in our kitchen cupboard shake. All the way to the front.
It was a vibratory roller.
Okay.
That thing is a beast.
So-
It does its job.
So, out of respect for the presentation, we'll move through it, and then there'll be more
Yes.
opportunities for questions. So we really tried to put in some guidelines, and you're right. And I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh, we have the cure, we fixed it. We're leaning into it. We're trying to understand your perspectives, and where we can make adjustments and mitigation, we will. But at the same time, you've stated some clear factors that influence your environments, and we're concerned, and we're going to continue to learn as we go.
Okay, so what's included in the track lighting project? I'm going to start out with some general stats on the lighting project, and we have our technical expert here, Nathan Lindsay from Musco, who's going to chime in on some of the light levels. So the basic system is a 6-pole LED system. It has 65 fixtures. It's going to both light the track as well as the field events. And Nathan's going to speak to the different light levels that you can use for each of the different sports that are going to be out there, as well as the infield. The track is set up to have a huddle camera to support the flag football, much like they have at the current stadium for football. And again, Nathan will talk about that, but the lighting controls can be done from your phone on an app, obviously only by Fairport individuals. And Musco Lighting, as an investment for the district, they have a turnkey warranty for 25 years. So a light goes bad, wiring goes bad, a circuit board goes bad. Musco comes out free of charge and fixes it. Next up, we're going to look at some of the technology and how it's evolved. Nathan, you want to?
Just as a show of hands, I'm loud. People probably hear me without. How many people were here when we talked about the baseball, softball, multipurpose overlay? Okay. So just the short version, you guys have on the stadium right now, you guys are on that 1989 spot, second from the left. So the first thing I would say about the lighting upgrades is that you're going to see a huge, everybody east of the property right now, you're getting a ton of spill from that existing stadium, and that's going to go away. Right, so the second from the right is what it's going to look like now when you guys are looking at the existing stadium. So I can assure you this is one of these weird projects where if we were to light the track and field today and not replace the stadium lighting, everybody along that property would say, wow, the track and field doesn't bother us at all, but the stadium still does. So doing both at the same time is going to be a monumental reduction in sky glow and a monumental reduction in spill and glare. And on to Brian's comment about the 25-year warranty, the one thing that wasn't listed up there is we guarantee on-field values and off-site control too. So if something happens, a high wind event that gets something out of alignment in 5 years, we have to come back and fix it to make sure that we're not putting any light in your yards. So again, the second from the right is what our technology does today. So we're really just, and that's Musco up on the second from the left. You guys have non-Musco on that original project, which is even worse than that. So it's going to be a huge improvement over what you have now on the stadium. And then subsequently, the reason that we're doing 6 poles, and if you want to go to the next slide, on the track and field, we normally do these kinds of facilities with 4, which is 4 poles or 4 light sources, which is what we are doing at the stadium. But because the track is there, it's really hard to control the light, to get the right amount of light in the track corners without it going past the track corners. So we're adding a 5th and a 6th pole, that T1 and T2. For really the only reason we're putting that there is to make sure we do maximum spill and glare control on this. And it allows us to have really steep aiming angles on S3 and S4 and S1 and S2, so that the track is getting, corners are getting lit with the T-poles. And this is the same setup we do in, we just had a dark skies project up in Adirondack or at Saranac Lake. We had a project at Glens Falls where your houses are actually where the trees are in this case, much, much closer. And this setup here allows us to really contain everything extremely well. And the zones that they just described, the field events, for example, will only be on when they're actually using them. That's going to be on a separate circuit. The track will only be on when they're actually using the track. If it's a flag football game only, they can have those off. So not only will it allow the district to make sure that they're using every energy dollar wisely, but it guarantees that they don't have to have stuff on that they're not actually using for that event. So, but with the tree line where it is there today, I can say with confidence that line that you see there, which is the maximum horizontal spill values, the green number is the maximum. It's less than a half a foot candle. And most ordinances in place require a half a foot candle or so at the nearest residential property. We're below that without taking into account the vegetation. If we were to actually take account that tree line there, that there's not every single number along that line there would be 0.0. So I'm happy to say that the sound is something I can't help with, but I can assure that the lighting is not going to be any concern. And it's going to be a big improvement over what you have.
And it is focused more down. The stadium lights now by the press box.
Yeah, that's the only reason we didn't reuse those poles, I'll be honest.
Into our dining room, across
Yeah.
the street, out onto the creek.
And
Poles are too short.
We were going to, I mean, the poles themselves are going to last for another 50 years. They're one-piece concrete structures. It's unbelievably difficult to get them down and cut them up into pieces, but that's what we're doing because the mounting height isn't high enough for us to be able to control it the right way. So we're actually replacing the poles with taller structures and moving them closer to the field and honestly, the aiming angle is going to improve by 10 degrees. Mm-hmm. So instead of aiming it across like you do a driving range, for example, we're going to be aiming straight down. And the improvement will be substantial.
So the lights are on the track, are they illuminating the track or are they illuminating the track and
Both. So in this case, S3 and S4 and S1 and S2, the only thing that's really lighting the track there is the bottom of the beams. So the aiming points on those are actually in the field, but the bottom of the beam we will use to illuminate the track. T1 and T2, the front fixtures on there, the only thing that they're doing is to illuminate the track corners. And so when they have the field and the track zone on together, it gives them gives you a competition level track. When it's only the S1, S2, S3, S4, the track corners are honestly going to be dark. And it kind of gives you an idea of how good we can control the light. If we were to just turn those main 4 poles on, the foot candle levels in the corners of the track would be less than a parking lot, less than a foot candle. It's because we're able to control it so precisely. So it's And in addition to everything we've already talked about, there's dimming built into it, right? So, the 1 or 2 evening meets that actually do go into dark, they can leave it at high, but a lot of districts and communities might choose a window that they want to be able to do a walking track, for example. And so that would be the track only on low would be plenty of light to be able to have walkers use it, but not for competition reasons. And so it's really set up with 3 different zones, and then the pedestrian, of course, is geared towards just the pedestrian area. We do not have any pedestrian fixtures at all on S3 and S4. They're just too close to the houses to have stuff aimed left and right. It's really just S1 and S2 that we'll have some pedestrian fixtures on, and same scenario. If we were to turn those on at night today, we could somehow throw the poles up quick and you could go out there and see it. You could see what we were lighting, but you wouldn't be able to see where the light's coming from because the fixtures are aimed straight left, straight right. And so that everybody lives to the east of here won't be able to see into the side of the fixture. As I mentioned when we talked about baseball, softball, multipurpose overlay, everybody's mind is so fixated on what you have right now at the existing stadium. It's just, the difference is so extreme that I'm confident you'll be extremely pleased. And if anybody has any light that they think is bothering them that's coming from the new lighting system, I will go to your yard and look with you, and we'll see what it is. And there are ways we can continue to improve it further. I'm confident that our out-of-the-box solution is going to be awesome.
And we got a reminder slide of the multipurpose overlay, just to review with everybody. Again, we went over that at the last presentation.
Yeah, same thing there. You can't read those numbers, but everything on the right, in fact, the darkest spot is the red number on the right. And same scenario there. The trees are just so thick during when this is going to be used that if we were to actually factor in the trees, every single number on the right of that screen would be 0.0, every one of them.
And this is just a quick review of the multi-purpose field. It has a lot of the same infrastructure as the track that we just reviewed. Again, it's going to have the huddle cam, which is in this case for baseball, softball. It has a 25-year warranty. Again, and it's set up for multi-sport. Just like Nathan was saying, that if you're only playing baseball, baseball is only going to be on. If you're playing softball, only softball is going to be on. If you're playing a soccer game, in the multi-purpose portion of it, only that's going to be illuminated. So there's tons of control on the system. And then as far as the schedule, we were able to get reviewed at SCD quickly, which we didn't anticipate as early. This is great because from a construction standpoint, we already have, you've seen it back there. You've seen the vibratory rollers and everything. It's a very busy site. Now is the time to do it. If we did these in the fall, we would have gone through restoration. We would have put some things back, and we'd be disturbing areas that we already constructed and almost had to pay twice. Now that we have this ability to do this now, we are going to receive these poles in the summer. We would put the pole bases in first, and then we're going to backtrack and go around and then put the lights in. Starting with the football field, moving to the multi-purpose field, and then lastly putting in it at the track. Like pole bases going first, poles going second. So that'll take us through towards the end of the year in anticipation for fall for youth sports for the 2 fields other than the track.
Yeah, we don't anticipate the track will not be ready until November, and then the field will take some time and need cure because it is a grass field. So our hope is the football field, the stadium first, multi-purpose, and then followed by the track after that.
And just sort of to reiterate a couple points, it sounds like the light solution, is appealing, right? What the district has done, because we have listened and tried to respond to the community regarding the sound. We've invested in new sound systems that are more focused, digitally controlled versus algorithmically controlled. So that gives us some parameters to try to mitigate it. We will listen. We will go to your backyard, and as much as you allow us to do that, so we can try to really understand the impact of it. And again, I'm just being clear and honest with you. I'm saying we can't avoid the sound, but we can try to be more diligent in trying to manage it. Like I said, new sound system, we put the speakers on different locations. We put some parameters in when sound can happen and when it can't happen as well for some of our non-Fairport Central School District events and activities. So I know that's unsettling in some instances. I wish I could fix it all for you. I really do. But I can say that we're trying to mitigate it to the best of our ability. And it's important that, you know, we use this time now to answer any more questions or to reiterate points if you have them right now. We'll start with that area over there, and then we'll come back here, because just to be fair to, yes?
So just to confirm, there are no restrictions on sound for Fairport events, or?
Supposed to be a limit on that.
Question is, there are no restrictions
So
for
I
sound
want to
for
just
Fairport events.
confirm my understanding that for non-Fairport High School events, there is restriction in terms of time. For Fairport events, the restriction is 9 p.m. start time. Is that true?
Can you put the slide back up?
I had it there, yeah.
Yep. So for the restriction of athletic competition, we're not going to start any contests after 8 p.m.
So that means if there's a game and we're announcing players, and it's not if we're talking about, because you live right behind the softball field, right?
Yeah, I'm the house.
There's not going to be
right behind.
speakers mounted on poles in that back field. It's going to be a single speaker we came to the agreement on that will be facing towards the field if we have to make an announcement. So it's a different sound system altogether.
And there's no plans to have a upgraded sound system added to the softball fields that will be coming down the line?
No, again, I'm here as superintendent right now. My plans are not to have polls. I don't think it's needed. I think it could be, our students can receive a great experience with a speaker system that we use right now. But it'll be a Fairport Central School District one, again, that we can have some parameters on.
I'm not putting accommodations on the poles for speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On the programmable digital sound, if I understood what you said, it is going to be able to be programmed so that there's a maximum volume that a group comes in and uses it for the soccer tournament, that they can't adjust that sound and turn it up. It'll be preset.
They won't be able to use our facility speakers. They have to use their own, and then we would then share with them the rules and expectations about sound.
Will your own system have programmable level that
Yes.
would be controlled so that somebody who's doing the JV sound all of a sudden decides and that has happened where they turn the sound up and it
Yes,
blasts?
the new system it's a computer system. It's not a traditional speaker. It goes into a data rack, and then we have control of those limits, unlike before where it's the same dial that turns it on is the same dial that turns it up. That is not the case with the new sound system. We can lock it, password protect it. Now, you get somebody who's an advanced software hacker, now that's a different level. But no, we can program those limits so that they're hard level on what that is.
And presumably we'll kind of give feedback if there's events that we think it's
For sure.
too loud, and perhaps there could be adjustments to that sound level.
And who is the proper person to receive that feedback?
Yep, you can send the feedback to me. I can provide my email address.
What's your last name again?
Yep, it's Killian, K-I-L-I-A-N, and I can provide you with my email address after.
So
certainly-
what we'll do, though, just out of fairness, is we have your emails. We will share with you pertinent information. So, is it 2 L's? Is it 1 L? I get it all confused myself these days. So, we'll make sure that we give you the link and the information that you're requesting about content.
So when an event is happening, nobody answers the phone. A Saturday, Friday evening. Is that true?
I mean, I could say in the moment, especially if Fritz is working an event, there's many moving parts, probably not in that moment, but is there a feedback mechanism? Yes, right? But not in that, I can't guarantee you in that moment. That wouldn't be fair to say that, hey, my phone's gonna be accessible when I'm, managing the game, et cetera.
Unfortunately, that's when it counts.
Exactly.
Well, also understanding too, that counts too. I'm just like I can't have somebody staffed. I would be lying to you to say I'm gonna have somebody staffed sitting at a help desk just in case sound needs to be mitigated. I agree. We would hope that we are informed before then, and if somebody does figure out a way to increase the volume, we are able to respond. That would be against our practices. So, but if something happens, we can learn from it and check the volume, check our process. Maybe something went wrong with an upgrade, et cetera. But in that moment, I would just be disingenuous to say, you're going to get a hold of Fritz, because I can't even sometimes get a hold of Fritz, and it drives me crazy sometimes. Right, Fritz?
I was able to get a hold of
What
Fritz.
about like on a Saturday morning when we know the kids got up into the press box to fool around with it? Are they gonna have access to stuff like that again to turn it?
What's the digital control again? Again, I know that he's said it over and over, but it's a totally different system. Again, a student that could get into the press box before, maybe with coach's keys or something like that, it's an entirely different system.
Okay.
And they don't have the electronic control. That's something that Fritz and Aaron will manage.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to add, Fritz, speak to this too. If kids are in the press box before a coach arrives, I would think we would want to know that,
Okay,
right?
that's fair.
Right, and so if it happens on a Saturday, maybe you can't get a hold of us on Saturday, but you can call us on Monday or leave us a voicemail on Saturday so that we're looking into that the next day, because that shouldn't be happening.
To that point, Fritz is going to have to educate all of the coaches and, to make them understand like it's an entirely different system. Kids can't just run up and put a CD in the unit, in the head unit, and then go ahead and hit play. It doesn't work like that. Okay. And the other thing that Fritz, you want to talk about the music service that we contract with also to make it clean?
Yeah, we do have a music service. We've been implementing it for the past 9 years. We'll have the students request their music, and then we run it through what's called a Neptune sound system, and they determine if it's appropriate for a school setting. So any music that you hear, it should not have swearing. It should not have words that are detrimental to things and themes that we don't want to hear in a school setting. And that's what we play in our stadium.
Yes, sir. Did you mean to say that non-Fairport people bring their own sound systems?
They will not be using Fairport systems.
So they will bring their own?
But under the strict guidelines that we'll be adhering to under this particular slide, no music or announcements before 9 a.m. or 7 p.m. And if we get a sense that like the Fairport Red Rage baseball team is blasting music into the night, we can control that by managing that privilege.
Couldn't you control it better if they used your system? Because you got monitors on yours,
Yeah.
you set levels.
Typically, when there'd be useful liability issues, so we wouldn't allow them to use that.
Liability on a sound system?
Well, if they break it. Right?
Access to the box, access to the...
Yeah. But you chose to allow them to use it.
So that's why they'll be able to bring in, again, how can they bring in, a full sound system? Sure. Is it likely? No. Could they bring in a single speaker? Yes. Right. And then we could say we've been getting complaints from neighbors, reasonable complaints. Please manage your decibels. And we have good neighbors. We have good relationships. I know that the people that use it don't want to be a hindrance to the neighbors. And again, that's part of we're trying to open up a two-way dialogue. It's not going to be perfect. That's one thing I can guarantee you, but we're going to respond. We're going to give an earnest effort to try to manage it where we can, so we can coexist, and you guys could be comfortable that we are trying to be responsive.
The only instance I'm aware of an outside group abusing the sound system was with youth football.
Yeah.
That was addressed. 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning, they were blasting out. That was quickly addressed by the school district. I raised it.
Yes.
time tonight and to be able to hear this. I think there's one issue that you haven't addressed at all, and that's parking. There's all kinds of no parking signs posted, but if you were on Valley Brook, I'm not sure if it was last week or the week before, one night in the evening, your parents and other attendees are pulling up right to that sign. You can't tell me they don't see it, and they're parking. Now, I know that's a tough issue for the district, because you don't control enforcement, especially when it's off-site. But that was a scary scene that night, because there's all kinds of cars. Some of them are not real good at using the curb to park, so they're a couple feet out. And you had kids riding, not you, but there were kids riding bikes back and forth, and the Amazon guys trying to deliver. It was chaos. So I'm not sure how you can address that, because it seems like it would magnify further if you're gonna have large events at the track with that sidewalk that comes through, so what is it, Matthew? I'm
Matthew.
sorry, I've lived here forever and I don't know the street names.
Matthew.
But similar to the sidewalk that comes out at Valley Brook. So I think that's something that you need to put some thought into and see what you can do about that.
So there's some limitations, obviously, with our with our footprint and the egress that we have from the building. You know, that's always been the biggest challenge, is one way in and one way out, and I think that creates those issues. But we have addressed some of those parking. There's additional parking in our in the construction plan. There's an additional lot where our current tennis court is.
I'm aware of that from the presentation last
Right.
time. Can you please make a concerted effort to reach out to your community? And you know what it is? It's parents who don't want to walk, because they can park in that sidewalk to the softball field.
Right.
That's a lot bigger
So,
path
so
than
we even
your
offer,
parking
we
lot.
offer shuttles, you know, from Parrington Park, from different schools.
You
You're
will
right.
be having that?
What's that?
You will be having?
No, we've offered it in the past.
When we have a large scale
When-
event
yeah.
like homecoming, we have running shuttles, but we are there's a two additional lots. I just wanted to finish that last piece. One of the things that is an issue that we tried to address with the capital project is the distances that some of our senior citizens have to, walk into the facility, because some of our athletic facilities are very far away from ARL. You know, if you think about the baseball and softball field, and we for years have employed golf carts to bring people to the events. There is a parking lot behind our track stand, which you can see. It's actually been paved already. We're pretty excited about that. And there are 32 spots there, which will be reserved for that purpose. And to your point, I know it's not everything, but 130 spots between those two parking lots does increase our capacity and hopefully defray some of the illegal parking or the neighborhood parking that goes on as a result, so that we have more on campus and less off campus.
I think just to clarify though, you're talking about there's a sidewalk that goes from Valley Brook Drive directly
To the
out
softball field. Yeah.
Right, and I think
People
that
are parking on Valley Brook Drive in front of no parking signs.
Yeah.
Right.
Just because they kind of
that's the
come to
third
realize
stage, of course.
that you get away with parking. I think that the real answer would be for some of the neighbors to let the people know that we're gonna call the sheriffs next time, and maybe the sheriffs would.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
that's the answer. We can.
That's not gonna be a high priority for the sheriff. Any reach out that you could do to try to educate your
Sure.
community would be appreciated.
Sure.
Sure.
That's easy.
Mhm.
Tell them that things like they were
Yeah.
there and their little kids were riding there, maybe.
The-
Maybe a couple of them will
The trick is having people read and really take heed of that. But we will do our due diligence with that.
Thank you.
One additional thing about that, when we first moved there, so it was before you guys, an emergency vehicle could not get down Matthew off of Junction, parking on both sides. They had to back up and try to go around. For a while, golf carts were there, cones were put out, people got the idea, but as soon as the school stopped doing that, that's a scary thought. We watched that happen. I don't know what happened to that person, but they did not, if it's a fire or an ambulance or something, and they can't get down the street because parking is on both sides, and right in front of our house is a no parking sign.
So that's that. We do have great relationships with Monroe County.
Okay.
And we could share that feedback. Now, do they have the resources to deploy? I do agree that if it is a nuisance or if it is a health and safety matter that you just described, I think our local authorities would want to know that too.
Well, I think that as a neighborhood, we're gonna start putting cones out even to stop them from parking on there. But then you get a little animosity and damage to our property.
Charge
because
charge
they're
admission
upset.
though. You can, we have a.
The coaches?
Yeah, I don't know of that. Well, again, we can reinforce expectations. Yeah, I do now, but we can reinforce expectations and we can continue to keep an open dialogue. We do ask that you sign up for our community newsletter, which will be an opportunity always for you to click here really easily and provide feedback, and it will go to the proper person to help support a situation or to learn about something that we didn't know that was happening. Because that would be interesting for me to know about. Sure. I'm sure there's instances and reasons why everything happens, but we still have to manage our.
With all these enhancements, sounds nice and professional. Has there been any thought given to more restrooms?
So
I see Snickers there.
Well, it's not for a lack of intention. It's a cost issue. So certain things are aidable and certain things are not. I think that especially when it comes to high volume events, like we make a concerted effort to bring in restrooms. Yeah, we bring in the porta potties, for example, homecoming. We bring in trailer, and then Aaron would tell you exactly the number because he manages that piece of it. Sure. We try to manage that effectively, and we have them on the grounds actually throughout the year now at this point between the two fields to address those issues. There are some functional issues with the restrooms that are down there, and we've tried to address that, but it's just one of those things we've sort of inherited, and we're trying to make better as we go. But it's an excellent point. It's sort of like absolutely on our list.
The best place for more restrooms would be at the concession stand.
Right.
That's down there, correct?
Right.
So the concession stand is site work. It would fall under more of an incidental cost, and we are over those maximum cost allowances. So maximum cost allowances are what's given to the school by the state, saying you're aided up to this much dollar amount of work, either outside or inside the school building. We're already over that, so any more work at this time would be unaided, and that would be a total cost to the taxpayer. So we just don't have the room in it right now, but it's definitely, that's why you saw me snickering. It's definitely something we want to do. We just need to make sure that the money is there to do it to maximize state aid the best
Saying
way.
that if there are large-scale events, we feel very comfortable bringing in the trailers that are, have levels of sanitary.
Brian and I have a little something to add to that. Adding additional restrooms would be cost prohibitive at this point, to Jeremy's point. That being said, we still have made some improvements to that concession stand facility, and this is projects before any of us worked here. The water line wasn't buried deep enough to that concession stand, so we have to winterize it a good month before your winter season's over, and we are sometimes in a late spring, we're halfway through the season before it warms up enough. So we've replumbed, we've changed the lines, we're making concessions so we can have that open later and open earlier to alleviate some of that as well. So even though we haven't added restrooms, we're making improvements to make what we do have much more functional within the cost allowances.
Yeah, you must have heard this from kids, the athletes, because there was a day I saw 12 girls in line for one porta potty. I felt so bad for them. And they were holding the best they could, and I could see it clearly, and it was very sad to see. And I just
thank you for that feedback.
Yeah.
Yes. So the statement was recycling. Can we add more receptacles? And I would have to say that wouldn't be a hard thing to accomplish.
Kim, are the water bottles landing in the trash or are they landing on the ground? Okay.
So it's not that, it's the fact that it's going in the trash.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've been to many of these facilities, and there are recycling bins and there are trash. It does get, sometimes people don't know the difference between which one, so I think that's where Aaron would go next.
Right, that was the next one. But the short answer is, yeah, I can get some
Maybe
recycling
one of
bins.
the teams or clubs could get the revenue from.
There you go.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
There you go. So right here, you have a QR code for those who are technological savvy to, just hit that little, you get your camera out, focus in on that QR code, and you should be able to sign up for our newsletter, community news that we will be periodically sharing. And I'd love for you to share that link with neighborhood, because we do want to do a better job communicating and reaching out. We're not afraid to coming back to this conversation as we move forward. We just have to have a two-way conversation. Look at you all technologically savvy on the phone. I love that. So we'll be here for a little bit. Any more questions? Yep.
I do have another question. In your letter that you sent to us, you mentioned that you developed input with residents. And I noticed tonight that you talked about community, you talked about residents. But on this paper that you sent out, I don't see neighbor, because you did refer tonight to neighbors also.
Yeah, maybe.
Were there any neighbors on the committees?
Well, that's who we were talking to. I referred to our friends over here. They met with us in the fall when we were talking about the multi-purpose field in the back.
So you had neighbors involved?
Yes.
With the sound and the lighting?
With the coming up with we were really taken back in the fall. We thought it was about the lights, but we got really educated. It was more about the sound than it was about the lights. And that's why, we got the feedback that we needed to do some sound mitigation. That's where we got the idea of we needed a new sound system, we needed a digital system, we needed to take a look at where we had them located. We brought experts out, all because of the feedback that we received from our neighbors.
So you did have neighbors?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. And if a game starts at 8 o'clock at night, it could go on till 10 o'clock?
Potentially, yeah.
I know kids don't like to go to bed, but.
Yeah.
And you've made them start later now, but isn't that kind of late for a game?
Yeah, I don't see a contest starting at 8 p.m., but it could. But I purposely would not do that. We typically start our contests at 7:30, 7:45 at the very latest, but I would purposely not start at 8. But it could happen if a bus shows up late, if the officials show up late, if there's a weather delay. That can happen.
Yes.
If that does happen, could you consider having a microphone shut-off time? And I know that's a big ask. The kids may not mind staying up late, but some of us have to be to work at 6:30. And we shouldn't have to close our windows to sleep. Just for consideration.
Thank you for the feedback. I do know some of our meets and events require speakers to mobilize students to inform. So, but where we can control it, we will. But again, a lot of those events have those. Yeah.
Mobilizing students, though, does that require music? Just asking.
Yeah.
That's where we would have that influence.
Yeah. So again, thank you for considering. And again, I don't want to walk away thinking, oh, you shared it, it's all fixed. This is a process, and it's feedback that we earnestly want to try to reflect upon and respond like we have done in the past, and will remain and continue to do so. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Please come and see. I mean, our house, we had to take the trees down, so we're like excited about it. But you guys have planned it all. You haven't stood from this side and looked at it. It's pretty amazing. But it's steady.
Well, thank you. We will take you up on that.
92 Matthew Drive, second house from the back.
What time can I come? No, I'm joking. What time's dinner?